Hello everyone, this is Shadow Dragon and we're back on the test server to continue testing out augments. So this video is going to dive in with a little bit more detail than before. This is still kind of unplanned, but definitely more planned than before because I did write down some numbers this time because I wanted to compare roughly with live. So what I did was I took all of Alyssa's numbers just from the mods because we did confirm that like none of our actual stats are changing, and the gear is exactly the same as well. We took the mirror set on test and compared it to live. It was exactly the same. So we're only going to look at the mods. So Alyssa has like a good mix of like precision and might in her battle tank role, and I wish we could see the mods here, but since they've been removed, she does have like a yellow slot in the head and shoulders, so there is some resto in there on the live server. Now if you have stats that are kind of like tertiary, they're not like main for that role, you're pretty much going to ignore it for augments. You're just going to lose them because it doesn't make sense to slot in one of the new items just to have like a tertiary stat. So in that sense, like I said in the previous video, our characters are going to be less well-rounded. But only slightly, because it'll just be the tertiary stats. So I actually built this character wrong with the augments in my previous video. I made her like half precision, half might. This is what I imagine most hybrid players would be, but I kind of went through a lot of trial and error to figure out my playstyle, and it is heavier on precision. So what I should have done here was three precision ruins and just one might. And in the last video I didn't factor in the augments because I didn't know where to get them. But there is a vendor where we can look at them. I don't actually have the currency, but we can grab the numbers from the vendor later. But essentially, the augments start out with higher stats than the ruins do. So in sort of a rough estimate, what I should be doing for my own personal playstyle is with the two augments in Alyssa's battle tank role, one should be precision, one should be might. But when I work the ruins, 3 should be precision and 1 should be might, and that would get her pretty close to her mod stats on live. And I wanted to compare the numbers just to make myself feel better that I can get her close to her numbers on live. So hopefully I didn't make any mistakes in adding these up. But her precision modded number is 658. That includes the numbers from the highest mods, which is New Justice Underground from Earth 3. And it also includes any socket bonuses. And then when I look at the ruins, and I kind of calculated as if I had 3 precision because I already messed up here, so we can't go by here. I just took the one that's ranked 200 hit critical, that's why it's 200, and the other one is 193. So I counted the 200 one once and the 193 twice. And then I added in the precision augment with nothing in it. And that puts her precision at 727. So she ends up quite a bit higher in that stat. And in doing the same with might, I took the adaptive augment, unmodded, and then we're just adding in one of the might runes. And she comes out at 614 compared to 621 on live. So it's slightly lower in that sense. And in this type of build, it's going to end up like that because we're going from, this is the closest, let's see, this is the closest representation of what we have currently on live. So there are slots for the head. There isn't one for the neck. So we've got back, chest, legs, 2 rings, feet, waist, hands, and shoulders. So that's 10 slots translating into 6. So just by that nature, it's going to be less precise. So you're going to come up with things. So that's why her precision is a bit higher and her might is slightly lower. So if you have a build that's that sensitive, that's basically not 100% one way or the other, or is not 50-50, you're going to have something a little bit off. But keep in mind that these aren't maxed out yet either. So that's with the augments unmodded, and the runes like partially modded but not maxed. So if I play content a little bit, I should be able to get her might over what it is on live now. So as long as you're careful about this, your character should end up better. What I recommend with the tertiary stats, if you have any of those lying around, you could just go ahead and make the adjustments in your skill points instead. So in Alyssa's case, I would, let's see, she would be losing 116 in resto because she has like 2 mods, and I think one of them came from a socket bonus. So what I would do in this case is just put points into resto until I got something close to that number. And it's okay to sacrifice a few of your primary and secondary stats for that, because like as you see, the augment system ends up slightly higher than the exo mods anyway. So we're basically using the skill point menu to kind of carve out and make up for the granularity that we lost when we went from the 10 slots to 6. Now I know all this probably sounds complex, and it's an extremely rare case. It's because I have a weird play style. Now the other night what I did was I did like a 1-hour session with my league where I kind of inspected anyone who came by and gave recommendations on how to convert their mods over. Now the vast majority of damagers are like 100% might. So that is a very easy transition. Like basically in all 6 slots, in all 6 of these slots you would just pick might. So you don't have to do any weird math like trying to determine how much precision versus how much might. The other really common case is of course unmodded. And I think that's probably the vast majority of players out there. Now, if you're unmodded, you're going to benefit from the system no matter what. Even if you do it completely wrong, your stats are going to be higher than they are now because you were unmodded. So anything here is a bonus for you. But if you are unmodded, you do want to take a close look at your own playstyle. So, especially if you're a hybrid, you want to assess if you're actually 50-50 weapons power or not. So definitely pay attention to that as you play in these final days. So those are the two biggest cases, like full might and unmodded. And I only came across two assessments in my league where it was kind of a custom universalist build. And you're going to come across this for like survivability builds where you have like mostly damage and then you're getting some support in there just to help you last a little bit longer. So those are a few of the cases. I imagine very few people have to worry about that. So everything I went through in the beginning of the video is probably doesn't affect too many users. The other thing you need to keep in mind, or actually that you actually don't need to keep in mind, is if you're modded for health or power, because a lot of people do that now. Especially the super powered players, they're getting a lot of additional power by using mods. Basically, health and power are going to be like preset for this whole system. Like we're not ranking those stats up; they're just automatic for us. And so at launch, just don't worry about those two things. I don't know how that's going to affect tanking though, because a lot of us will put in health mods in there to get additional health, and now pretty much all the roles are going to be equal health and power, so it should be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think they will go back to the complexity of having us rank up for power and health, because this system already is very simplified, so I don't think they would revert back to that. But I imagine if we come across any power and health problems, the devs would have to adjust something on the back end, something behind the scenes. But that's only going to come when we're only going to really see that when this goes out to the masses, because there's basically not enough people on test to really pull like analytics for trending. Yeah, so for now, I guess just if you're full might, pretty easy for you. If you're unmodded, think about how you play the game. And keep in mind that this is only mods. Like your skill point distribution is going to be the same as before, unless you're making like slight adjustments to make up for what you're missing in mods. What else? Oh, let's go ahead and take a look at the Titans vendor, so we can look at the actual augments. I'll roll over all of them, so you could pause the video if you want to copy down the numbers. But this is just showing you what I use to compare live versus the starting point of augments here.
Have a fine day, combatant.
So these reflect the same stats as the ruins. So here's the might one. So you see the health and power are automatic. And you get a huge chunk of might without this being even ranked up. Here's the dominance one. So in the dominance one you get a lot more health than the might one. Restoration. And here's Vit. Precision. And that's it. Those are the 5 stats. So it's basically 1 for each roll, and there's 2 for damage. You have might and precision. And these are going to change for every DLC. So after this one, you're going to see, like, these are specific to Titans. So it should be interesting to see how that works as well. But they don't become obsolete, because like you're always going to have these, and you can swap them in and out. So now that this is going up, like as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, like I kind of did this the wrong way for my character, and the problem there though is, like, when you log on and you didn't do enough research, and if you rank these up in the wrong way, because you're going to be awarded 4 golden exobytes that basically bring your runes up to whatever level you should be at. And the problem here is there's no way to undo it. So had I done this on the live server, like I would have screwed up my character for a very long time, because I would have to grind, like the precision one that I didn't rank up. I would have to grind that up to rank 193 from 0. So if you do mess up the initial build, you're going to have a long road ahead of you. So definitely put a lot of thought into it. If you're unsure, don't use those golden exobytes yet. And you kind of want to play around until you're absolutely sure. So this does bring to the surface a problem with this system. Like if you just can't adjust it as well. Like on live, if you messed up one mod, it's not too bad to regrind that and rebuild it. And of course you have the option of building a lower level one and putting it in there. You don't have that here. So this just isn't friendly in that sense. It's very strict. And the other thing, which I mentioned before, is the number of slots. Going from 10 to 6, you can't be as precise. So that's one thing I don't like about the system. I wish they kept like this menu as the map. Like ideally, I would like to see something in between the current system we have on live and this. See, the good things about this is it can be granular and precise, and you could build in a lot of custom ways. Like each slot basically could have 1 or 2 stats. So what I would have liked to see, and it's obviously too late, like this was written in stone before we saw this on tests. But see, the only issue I have with mods is the fact that we have to keep pulling them out and rebuilding for every tier and every DLC. Now, what they could have done was just keep the same number and even keep the same settings. Like whatever you had set for each of these would stay the same throughout the tiers, and then the drops you get, just rank all of them up at once, and then it would just lock at whatever tier you're at. So if you're at, like, say Earth 3 or Deluge, like all these would lock at the Earth 3 level, and like all the drops you get would feed XP into that. Like if the whole thing, if you imagine the whole thing as a container, like all the drops you get rank that up. That would basically keep everything we have now intact, except that we don't have to keep swapping the items out every time we get a drop. So that would kind of be a hybrid of these two systems. So this is just something we're going to have to get used to. But in the long run, it does seem to be like a stats increase. Now the other thing that I don't like about the launch of this is, like, to me this is on the level of a stats revamp, though I mean it's not quite as big because mods don't impact as much as like our, you know, the meat of our stats. But it is a pretty big change that could make your character feel different. So I totally disagree with this system launching the same time as content. We really need to run this like with current content in order to get a real feel for this. Because by launching this with new content, it's basically putting two big variables in there. Like you're changing the entire modding system, and then we're going to be playing new content with this. The Titans content was not tested with the old mods, so there's no comparison. There's no way to really compare. You would be comparing old mods on Deluge versus Augments and Titans, and that's a terrible experiment. That's not a controlled experiment at all. But I think they wanted to do that content-wise, because Augments is like loosely related to Titans and Cyborg. Oh, okay, there is one more thing I wanted to test out really quickly here. Because in my other video I just ranked some of these up with like just random stuff. Let's see, it's nth metal. Artifacts, augments. I was just trying to demo this. It seems like all the legacy pieces are going to translate to 20 experience for augments. And that's something I disagree with again, because if you think about it, like there's way more effort behind a fully built mod than like an exobyte. But both of them, if both of them are going to be 20 experience, what you want to do is kind of recover what you have slotted now, but don't recover the full mod. You want the bytes back. And there's actually another layer of complexity to that, because you don't want to use the total recovery kits. Those are gonna convert to Augment XP boosters. So you don't want to use those pulling it out for, you know, 20 XP per byte, because the boost is going to give you more than that. So if you have like the old recovery kits, I guess exceptional recovery or the tiered ones, I would use those to pull the mods out, because if you spend like on the 20 mark ones to pull the full mod out, you're only going to get 20 XP for that. But if you pull the bytes out, you're going to get 20 XP per byte. So that would be the way to go. And in not using total recovery, you're going to lose some there, but it's better than pulling out the mod and just getting 20 XP. So yeah, my other complaint about that is they're not rewarding for like effort behind an item. Like I think a fully built mod should be worth way more than 20 XP. And the other issue regarding effort is when this launches, it's obviously favoring heavily the non-modder. And on the other side of the spectrum, it's a big penalty to the dual role modder, because we're only getting 4 golden exobytes that basically rank up 4 of the ruins. And in order to be equivalent for a dual role modder, we actually need 8. So we're only going to be mod ready for 1 role when this goes up, unless there's a last second change. Now what they could have done to assess the effort behind modding is they could have made a system where we trade in like what we currently have modded, and I don't think that can be exploited, because right now if you're at end game, your mods are pretty much controlled by the number of essences you have. So it can't be, I mean, it can be exploited a little bit because the DLC's been out for a while. But what they should have done was, I guess, give us kits to unslot all of our mods, or unslot 20 would be the total. Unslot a maximum of 20. And then have us trade those in for like huge chunks of XP. So like one old mod would be like 40% of a golden exobyte. So that way during the transition, your character will resemble more what it is on live, you know? Like if you modded both roles, you would be able to fill up both roles. If you modded one role, you're only going to be able to fill up one. If you modded none, then you're just going to start from scratch. So I think that would have been more fair of a system than what it looks like we're going to get. Okay, so I think I got everything in there. Those are all my thoughts on the launch of Augments. We'll definitely continue this as we find out more, or when this goes live and we get a feel for this. But that is definitely all I could think of for now. Stay tuned, and good luck with your transition. Thanks for watching.